All right, we're going to start this off. I'm going to ask the first question from Smole Stitches.
That's right.
I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Smole Stitches? I don't know.
No, small, like small.
Small stitches. Okay.
Yeah.
Should the slit between the tines of your fountain pen nib be perfectly centered? Is there a reason that it may not be? Basically, yes, it should be centered. Will it function if it's not? Perhaps. You know, that's like asking if the wheels on your car should be straight and round. It's like, well, I mean, it might function if it's not, but ideally it definitely should be.
Yeah, it's definitely there for a reason, and if it's off, then it's likely that it will not perform as it should. The nib and the feed are kind of smushed together so that they can create an ink channel, right? And there is stuff going on that allows that to happen. On the nib side, the thing going on is the slit, and on the feed side, the thing going on is the ink channel. And those two things need to be aligned. That they together create a Voltron of ink flow when they combine, and that's what you want. And if you've got your ink channel here and your nib slit here, then yeah, maybe some ink will kind of smush over and find its way where it needs to be, but it's not going to be ideal. And you could have interrupted flow, no flow at all. It really just depends, but it's supposed to be mated up. So if your nib is cut off center, not only is it very likely that the slit in the tine won't be right directly above the ink channel, but it could also mean that you've got one chunk of tipping material significantly larger than the other, and that creates a whole nother host of issues. So yes, it should be straight down the middle. Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure that is the intention of every fountain pen manufacturer, is to have it look like that. Now, sometimes there are manufacturing mistakes that happen and all that, super, super few and far between, but every now and then one will slip through, and that may be the case. But it really probably shouldn't be like that. Now, Drew, technically, if you have the cut for the slit going straight in the middle of the tines, but then it goes off center from there, and then theoretically, if your feed was equally off centered, that would still probably work, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that alignment, that proper flow, the capillary action. Everything's got to match up, and having it straight down the middle is the most reliable way to do that. So yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you can actually take a peek. If you've got a nib with a breather hole in there, you can actually kind of peek into the breather hole and you can see the ink channel, and that could be a good indication of how accurate it is in alignment.
Yeah. And in fact, the breather hole, it's arguable, but it makes a very nominal difference into the actual ink flow itself, that hole on the nib. And in fact, the pen that I just pulled up here, the Diplomat Aero, does not have a breather hole. But the Pilot 823 here, I can't get super close in, but it does have a breather hole. That breather hole is really just to give you a place to stop when you're grinding, not you, the manufacturer, a place to stop when you're cutting the slit down the nib. So you have a dedicated place. Otherwise it would, it could possibly end up in maybe different lengths and distances and stuff. Especially old school, the way they used to do it, it wasn't automated, it was manual. So they would do it by hand and just kind of like have a grinding wheel and then just kind of push the nib down into the grinding wheel. And theoretically, you could go further or not as far or whatever. So for consistency's sake, if you have a little breather hole punched in there before you do the cut for the slit, it just gives you a nice consistent place to be able to do it. And then it makes it visually, it's easier. You can kind of see through that breather hole when you're aligning the nib. You can see that, feed channel, through the breather hole. It just makes it easier. So that's kind of why it's there.
And there are plenty of manufacturers that still do it manually like that. Like,
Absolutely.
Some of the places we visited do it that way.
Yeah,
do it that way.
More so on like the gold nibs and stuff. They're really the higher end stuff, just making sure. So yeah, there you go. Good question.